Coming up on today's DLLS Dallas Stars podcast, Jake Oettinger might not be on track right now to make the Team USA roster for the Four Nations tournament. We'll talk about his current rankings. Thomas Harley needs a contract. He's an RFA. Is that a concern, or is it more about just what type of deal the Stars and Harley agree? We will also get into, for the first time on our show, Victory Plus and what that means for the Dallas Stars in their TV broadcasting going forward for this coming season. We've got some NHL news and notes. Luds is still mad at the online chat rooms. And guess what? Sean and Sam are both here. So don't go anywhere. It's time to start the show. All right, everybody, it is Thursday, August 29th. Can we believe that? We're almost in September. Not there yet, but Labor Day weekend is around the corner. Welcome to the DLLS Dallas Stars podcast. Alongside Craig Ludwig, our two-time Stanley Cup winner, we have our writers, Sam Nestler and Sean Shapiro, both calling in today. And I'm your host, Owen Newkirk, as we get you ready for what I think is a dynamite weekend, holiday weekend, where the temperatures in Dallas aren't going to be in the triple digits. And we might even get rain for the first time since like July. Now, Luds has been in what they would say is ideal weather up in Wisconsin. So he's just feeling like this is torture to be back in this heat.
Terrible. It's a holiday weekend too?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Kids are off of school. My kids Monday and Tuesday. How about that?
I don't know. My kids are grown and have kids, so don't talk to me about that.
We can't make the grandpa jokes yet, can we, guys?
Not yet. No, just save them.
Wait, leave it for the Discord. We'll get to that. If you're tuning in live or even later, please like and subscribe. It's not just some cliche thing for YouTube videos. It actually does benefit our show and all the DLLS podcasts. So it really is. If you like our show, one of the ways you can help us is to like and subscribe. You can also become a diehard. We'll get into that a little bit later with Luds, because with our two writers here today, right now, all of their articles are free on the site, but some of them will be behind the diehard paywall, which means that if you want full access to both Sam and Sean's material, when they do it in written form, you have to become a diehard. We'll get into that a little bit later. Speaking of writing, our first two segments are going to touch on things that both Sam and Sean wrote this week for our DLLS Stars section of the DLLS website. You can access it all DLLS.com, no hyphens. And let's start with Sam.
No comment.
Sam wrote about Jake Oettinger yesterday. His piece came out. And Sam, I think you should take the lead right now because, of course, you wrote it, but also we have some interesting audio from Jake. So why don't you take the ball and run with it?
Yeah, talked to Jake a few days ago. It's been a busy summer for him. He got married early in the summer, went on a long honeymoon, came back, went to his sister's wedding, all while trying to train for the season. But it's been something that he didn't have last year, which is a fully healthy summer, which we saw. It took him some time to get adjusted. It wasn't his best season, worst save percentage of his career during the season. He admitted that it took him some time to adjust. So this is good for him to get back to full health. And I think John has a clip, if you can pull that up, on him speaking about his summer.
Yeah, it's been great. I think like everything I do this summer, I feel like I'm already like ahead of the game compared to last summer. Just trying to basically like play catch up last summer and work around injuries and whatnot. So just the fact that I'm like 100% healthy and, can do all the things that I want to do and train and skate as hard and as much as I want to do, I feel like I'm light years ahead of where I was last summer. And, I'm just happy to be able to, like, I love the off season training and skating and working on my body and stuff. I'm like really into all that type of stuff. So last summer was really hard having to be like a lot of stuff I couldn't do, and just, I'm an active person anyway, so just all the other stuff that comes with being a normal person, I couldn't do any of that stuff either. So it's just been a great summer of, I worked really hard and, still have a few weeks left to put in the finishing touches. And, I feel like I'm going to be in, the best shape of my career coming into camp this year.
He sounded like a totally different guy almost. He's very confident. You heard him talk about being an active guy. We forget sometimes it's not just about training for the next season, right? It's about getting your summer off to go play golf, go play sports, run around with your family, whatever you're doing. And he wasn't able to do half of that last summer because of his ankle injury and the surgery that came after. So it was huge for him. And he spoke not only physically how much he feels better, but mentally how much that has helped him. He's able to get back to training how he did 2 years ago, back when he was in college. He hasn't had to change any of his training, which is great for him. No lingering effects from the injury. So I think it's going to do wonders for the beginning of his season.
Sean, look, it's not just that you play goalie and that you study goaltending and you write about it for different publications, but you're also just in love with the position. But yeah, you've covered Jake for a long time. We've seen him go from a protege prospect that was hoping to be Ben Bishop's backup to now the guy that carries the mantle for the Dallas Stars. In his first iteration of the playoffs against Calgary a couple seasons ago, he was absolutely fantastic, and he was the belle of the ball at that time. Unfortunately, the Stars didn't make it through that 7-game series with the Flames. The last couple years, he's helped lead them to 2 conference finals in a row, and yet there's still some lingering questions about Jake Oettinger, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, with Jake, you look at the regular season work, and it's been tremendous, right? It's been nothing. You can't really sneeze at what he's done. Even last year, but as Sam mentioned, career low save percentage. Ironically enough, that's the year he gets invited to the All-Star game, and we can have the whole discussion about an All-Star game at much later time. But he's still got the job done. And then you get to the postseason, and Jake has kind of hit a wall in performance in the postseason the past couple of years. You looked at 2 years ago against he's gotten outplayed in back-to-back Western Conference Finals by the goalie on the other side. This year it was being Skinner with Edmonton, and that's kind of for a guy who has this mentality. And Sam's story is great. People go read that through and through. But for a guy who has this mentality, if he wants to be one of the best goalies in the world don't get outplayed in the Western Conference Final. And that's kind of the question that will always, for me, kind of will linger for Jake right now as you go into the season. He can have a great regular season, but it's got to be all about how does Jake Oettinger be the goalie that helps get them over that next step in the playoffs? And that's kind of the lingering question. And Owen said in the cold open, like, is he going to be snubbed for Team USA? Team USA is going to have some great options and guys who have delivered in the playoffs like that before and things. So that's really the question when it comes to Jake right now. And it's hopefully with the healthy coming into this season, it builds into that. But there's a lot of things he can't prove until the time comes to prove them.
Luddy, I'm not calling you our goalie expert, but you are our ex-player. And so you've gone through off-season training and getting ready for an NHL campaign, whether it was with Montreal, with Dallas, you name it. How much different is it for a guy like Jake coming into a summer frustrated, maybe with a little motivation because they didn't get their ultimate goal, but healthy compared to last year where he didn't know if he needed surgery or not, had to deal with it, and really wasn't ready to be fully working out all summer, and even into training camp had to be on a bit of a restriction?
I don't know. My opinion is if there, and Sean, you can speak to this also. I mean, if there's a position in hockey that you need to be put together from the neck up, it's being a goaltender, and I think that if you've got that confidence in yourself, and you can hear it when he talks, that he feels good. And I think if you're mentally prepared, you can get physically prepared. But it's just such a mental game, and you don't want to have to think, well, I got this little tweak, my groin or my knee or whatever, and you're not worried about any of those things. Because, I reached out this morning. I haven't heard back from him. I reached out to Ben Bishop because I know you guys are going to talk about him. And Ben went through some injuries and things like that too. And I'd like to, and I've talked to other goaltenders, obviously, and it's something that gets in their head. And how much does it really restrict you when you're trying to move from left to right or side to side or post, whatever you want to call it, if it is a groin or a knee kind of thing? I want to ask both you guys, though, have you guys ever asked him, and I know I brought this up before, this thing that Ben does, as soon as he makes a save, he doesn't hold his glove out and give it to the linesman or the referee. He just takes it and he throws it to the faceoff circle. Have you guys asked if that's just something he's always done or if there's anything to that?
Did you say for Ben or for Jake?
For Jake.
For Jake.
For Jake? Okay, yeah. Okay. I don't think I've ever asked Jake about it. I had a conversation with actually during the last season. I had a conversation with Aiden Hill about it, of all things. When I was in Vegas for another job, I was talking to him about it, and it was something where Hill told me from his goalie's perspective, it was he has a little bit of a post routine where he likes to, so he just basically is getting the puck out of the way as quickly as possible for the reset. It's a really good question for one of us should probably ask Jake, because I've seen Jake does that more. I think Jake's a bit of a showman. I think you see a little bit more of it after the big save, after the one like that. It's a bit of the version of the stare down. Now, I'd be interested to, I haven't gone through and checked all of this, but I when Jake's at his best, I think you see more of that. It's when he's giving it back to the other team. That's kind of my read on it. But
yeah,
Sam, you should ask him soon.
When you
on
see
it.
that in a game, don't you go, "Oh, he's feeling it tonight," or "Oh, he liked that save"? It's sort of this.
Yeah.
Are we trying to tap dance around the word cocky?
No, because it's not. I think it's
confident.
There's a difference between the being confident and being arrogant. And
I think what it is get that shit out of here.
Yeah,
that ain't good enough. Get it out of here.
But I think it's honestly, I think it's swagger.
Yeah,
is what it. Cocky always has sort of that negative connotation of you're
no
overly arrogant. I think it's he's feeling good and he's letting you know about it.
Yeah,
which maybe we're arguing semantics here, but swagger.
There's no. Everyone in the NHL is cocky. Rich Peverly once famously told me, no one ever made the NHL without being cocky. All of those guys are cocky in some case. So everyone's cocky in the NHL. Let's call it what it is. So,
all right. So how about a slice of humble pie for Jake and some motivation, as the NHL.com has been putting out with their writers the rankings of by position of right now best players in the NHL by their position. So we dug out the Americans on the top 16 that they released because it pertains to the upcoming best on best 4 nations tournament, Canada, US, Finland, Sweden, which will happen during a 2-week break, which would have been the All-Star weekend. Now it's going to be this tournament. And yes, and Sam is very excited about it not being the All-Star game. This is what they have right now. And you can see that Jake is 4th. He is, for those that are listening to our show later on the podcast version on the audio side, they have Connor Hellebuyck, number 1 out of Winnipeg. Number 3 in that list is Jeremy Swayman from Boston. Our producer, John, is very excited about that. Number 6 would be Vancouver's Thatcher Demko, followed by Jake at number 8, and then his Minnesota hometown buddy, older, but, they were from the same place, played for the same high school, I think, Charlie Lindgren of the Washington Capitals. He comes in at number 16. So, guys, we'll start with Sam. Is that about right?
Yeah. I think so. We just talked about it. If you were to just look at the goalies' playoff numbers, a lot of those guys separate themselves from Jake in that way, especially Swayman and Hellebuyck, not looking at last year's series against Colorado. But I think I wrote about this earlier in the summer. I think any of those 4 start for any other team in this tournament, which is crazy to think about. Like, think about how good Canada's team is going to be. Their goalies are not nearly as good, whereas the U.S. maybe not as stacked up front, but they have 4 of the best goalies. So it's just the luck of the draw where you're probably one of the top 5 to 6 goalies in that tournament, but 4 of them happen to be of the same nationality. So it's going to be tough for Jake to crack that.
Sean, Jake has always said to the broadcast, the media scrums, that he wants to be considered one of the best in the world. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
He obviously has to, I'm guessing, has to use that as motivation because right now he's not.
He's very much, Jake doesn't say much about it out loud, but he very much is a internally driven, uses criticism as a driver. It's something that he, it is something that helps drive him. He's very good at internalizing it and then moving forward. I've talked to people around Jake about this. It's one of those things where you could tell Jake that you think he's doing something poorly right now, and he'll still be completely pleasant to you about it, but he's using that to drive that internal fire. And so, yeah, I don't know whether he's not going to care what 16 to be mean to people in my own profession. He's not going to care what 16 nobodies at NHL.com are voting on, and I'm intentionally being mean because it's just a random list. But he is going to see that and knows how the things shake up, that if he wants to be one of the best in the world, he's got to be one of the best in his country, and he's going to have to prove that here.
Luds, we don't have a lot of time left in the segment, but is it as simple as Jake has to have a great first half to get in that top 3 to be part of Team USA for the Four Nations?
Yeah, I think it goes for all of them. They all have to have a good start to the season. They have to put their names in the minds of the people that are making all these decisions. So, and I look on that list, and I think we'll see if Demko stays healthy all season long, because that might give him a little bit of a break in there. He's had some injury issues. When he's healthy, he's a great goaltender, but we'll see. And again, from a teammate standpoint, we don't really care if you're making a U.S. team or a Canadian team. We just want you to be really good when it gets into May and June.
All right, so we will talk about the defensive issue with Thomas Harley and his contract in just a couple of minutes. But right now, we have to tell you about Indeed. We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And I don't know about you, but if you're up for a job and you have to wait longer to hear back, that's agonizing as a prospective employee. So let's help the employer get through it faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agreed Indeed delivers the highest quality in matches compared with other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show, by saying you heard about Indeed on the DLLS Dallas Stars podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. You need Indeed.
Owen, I see your Indeed, and I raise you a FOCO.
What
We're
did
talking
you
about
say?
FOCO. FOCO, man. Everybody FOCOs. You FOCO, we FOCO, me, she FOCO. Let me tell you about it.
Should we censoring this?
Beeping it out. FOCO is your home for the best sports gear around. And I just looked at the site today a little bit. They got some good stuff, man. I'll tell you. Hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. They got it all for all the sports, all the teams, anything you want. If you're going to a basketball game, going to a hockey game, want to show off your love, even with a branded friendship bracelet, looking at you, Owen, me and you, buddy. Whether it's jackets, beachwear, or overalls, there's something for fans almost every occasion. And guess what? They've been doing it since 1998. I just
Sam,
saw
why
the
didn't you ask Luddy if he wanted a friendship bracelet?
I don't think he'd give it to me. I've been too mean to him.
Maybe when you get here.
Casual collection, retro hats. They got ugly sweater pajamas, which are ballin'. They got Snuggies. And I think I saw something I liked. John, why don't you pop up the picture we talked about? Oh, yeah. Just imagine Luds coming out of his
hot
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 tub
tub right there.
whiskey
There's
in
the
his
hot
hand.
tub closed.
I mean, that's perfect. Check out FOCO.com. Click the link in the description for all non-presale items. Use the promo code DLLS10 for 10% off. You could match Luddy, maybe even join him in the hot tub wearing those babies.
Well, let's not go that far.
In your own hot tub.
Yes.
Separately,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So we talked about Thomas Harley in our earlier show as being a guy that is going to be asked to be a lot on the blue line, along with Miro Heiskanen and, of course, Esa Lindell. He's clearly top 3, if not top 2. He probably is behind Miro in the Stars depth chart. Sean had a piece on our website, alldlls.com, that came out this morning about Thomas Harley. And Sean, to me, the interesting thing right now is we all know his progression that he's made, and he's taken real steps in his game to become more of an elite defender and not just a guy that's trying to make the NHL roster. But it's about the contract now, as he is a qualified RFA, but he's not going to accept a deal at his qualifying number, which is about $875,000.
Yeah, this is a complete money conversation. It has nothing to do with the player or anything like that. It's when, with all due respect to anyone ever says where Jim Nill's like, oh, I expect him to be a long-term part of the Dallas Stars, or Thomas Harley says, I want to be a Dallas Star for a long time. That's very nice sentiment, when really the biggest deal is I think I'm worth this much. I want to get paid this much. And the team is saying, I think you're worth this much. I want you to get paid this much. And the two have to find a happy medium that works for both sides on that. And that's kind of, if you go read the piece today, one of the big things with Harley is figuring out what is the market for him. Just because scored 15 goals last year as a defenseman. I believe he was top 5. Sam, tell me on that. I think he was top 5 in goals scored for defensemen, I think, last year. Guy who was second on the team in minutes on ice, in average time on ice, and if you look at him and you say he's definitely a $7 million player, you look at him right now, that's what he is. If you kind of try to figure that out. Now the question is Stars only have $6.2 million in cap room, so there's a little bit of a thing you have to figure out right now. And if you're the Stars, are you going to pay Thomas Harley that money right now over 8 years? Are you going to figure out a bridge deal? There's a lot of different factors about this, and Harley's got and his market has probably gone up a little bit with the delay. With the Faber deal, definitely got him a little bit more money. If Mo Sider, who is an RFA in Detroit right now, if he gets signed before this, he will raise the market a little bit. And then the big one that will just be the question in the story there is Broberg making if Broberg's making $4.5 million, what are you paying Thomas Harley? On a bridge deal for Broberg.
Well, and that's just it. It screams bridge deal because they don't have the cap space to give him that 7. And then kind of the question is, does that cost them more in the long term, right? That's always a conversation. If you go with a bridge deal, it used to be, and things have evolved over the last, 10 years, where it was ELC, entry-level contract, followed by a bridge deal, and then when you're in your late 20s as you approach free agency, then you get paid. Now teams are paying guys coming off of their entry level or maybe after a 1-year bridge because they're trying to give them the most money when their primes used to be late 20s, early 30s. Now it seems to be mid 20s, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of this has to do with the salary cap going up. And again, that's the job of your general manager, and Jim's got to figure out a way to piece this together and keep Thomas happy and get him into camp as quick as possible. I don't think I know that there's been other guys that haven't played any games in camp and come out but ideally you want to have them get 3-4 preseason games in. So I would assume that's what I would think. I think they're going to give him a 3-year deal or somewhere in that neighborhood and give him $5.5 million and somewhere in that ballpark. And then next thing you know, he'll be getting more in the long run. And that's probably got to be part of the pitch to him. And his agent may be saying the same thing. You're just going this way right now. You're going up. Your trajectory is you're going to be a better player, and you're probably going to put up more points, more goals in the next 2 years. And then you're going to start talking after that second year, and let's get this thing done. So, are you betting on yourself that you're going to do that, or you want the security of, whatever they're going to give you? If you give you 7-8 years at $5.5, $6 million, when you could probably be making around 7.
And for those that don't remember, John Klingberg, after his initial rookie deal, signed a very team-friendly 7-year deal. It was $30 million, but by the time that contract came toward its end, he was making well under market value. It was $4 million. Again, he took the long-term early, and it really paid off for the Stars, but almost too well because I remember talking with members of the Stars front office about that, and they said, you don't really want the player to feel that he's gotten way more than he deserves, and you don't really want the team to feel like they're getting a lot more value than they're paying, because you want both sides to be generally happy, because if one side feels like they got a better end of a negotiation too much, that causes trouble.
Well, and again, players want to stay here. Number one, because they love it here. They love living here. The schools are great when they get a family and things like that. The whole tax situation.
Except for starting school before Labor Day. What's up with that?
Okay, it's not always about you, Owen.
It isn't, but I'm still... Well, we could be...
They do that here, too.
We could be up in nice weather in August instead of in school August 9th.
You could have had a vasectomy and not have any kids and not worry about it.
I could have done that.
I'd have done that.
Yeah, I didn't do it.
Easier that way.
There's your clip for the day, folks.
That sounds like an ad read if you're looking for any sponsors out there.
There's other ways, too, but I'll just leave that.
Yeah, for sure.
In the corner.
But back to Harley, Sean, is there a concern that if you do a bridge deal now, it's going to cost the Stars more, not just more, but substantially more if he continues on his current path?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at the other parts when you're managing your long-term cap situation. This is the reason. This is Mark Janko's entire job to worry about this for Jim Nill. It's not just the Thomas Harley thing, and I think if Thomas Harley could sign for 3 years, 5.5, I think that would fit pretty well. That's not too bad at all. The issue with the bridge deal for Harley, and it's why the Stars, you look at the long term trying to make this all fit. Next year, Wyatt Johnston is going to get a massive raise. Next summer, there's going to be a massive raise for Wyatt Johnston. Jake Oettinger, we talked about him on the show. He's going to get a massive raise. So we talked the other day about Jeremy Swayman wanting $10 million. If Jeremy Swayman gets a really big deal and Jake goes and outplays him this year, good God, what is Jake Oettinger going to ask for as the cap's going up? All of a sudden, you have Jason Robertson coming off his deal, which was a bit of a sweetheart deal over the five years, coming up in 2 years. And on top of that, you even have some other guys like, we want Maverick Bourque to look really good this year, but say Maverick Bourque's coming off his ELC this year. He's going to come off, say he has a great year. To me, there is a long-term cap picture that if Thomas Harley is signed to a bridge, it's more gymnastics and finagling you have to do later. Yes, signing him to a 7x7, which would probably be fair. Signing him to a 7x7 right now would cause maybe some gymnastics to figure out this season, but it would save you a lot of grief next summer. It would save you a lot of long-term picture on things. So from my perspective, when I'm building the entire, I want this team to contend and win for years, if I'm the Stars, I'm leaning into that 7x7 because I want to be able to have the room to account for Wyatt Johnston getting a raise. I want to be able to account for all of that because that's how I would look at it.
Sam, I was asked the question yesterday. I did a thing on Sirius XM NHL radio, and Dave McCarthy, the host of the show, asked me, am I at all concerned about Harley not having a contract headed towards training camp? And I said flat out, no, I don't think that there's going to be a problem. Is there any risk of offer sheet not getting signed? I mean, we saw what happened with Jason Robertson 2 years ago under Pete DeBoer's first year as head coach. He missed all the preseason games, and he came out on fire in the regular season.
Yeah, there's worry that he won't be ready for camp. That's one thing, but that doesn't necessarily worry me. We saw Jason was able to overcome that pretty easily. I think it's just a matter of time here. But one thing that I think of, and I agree with Sean 100% on the deal, is it's kind of like using a credit card, right? When you do a bridge deal, you get the player now, you get the product now, but later on you're going to pay a heck of a lot more in interest, especially with the salary cap going up. So for me, for the Stars, I agree with Sean. I don't think there's a better deal than like a 7x7 that gets him locked in, gets him a good deal that he's happy with now. And then it's going to look a lot like Klingberg's in 5-6 years when that salary cap is up a whole bunch. So in terms of him not signing, I'm not worried about it. It just might be that it bleeds a little bit into camp, and you never like that distraction.
I'm kind of waiting to see which general manager blinks first when it comes to Steve Yzerman or Jim Nill.
I was thinking the same thing.
They've got their own in Mo Seider that's going to get a good deal. I mean, he's probably going to get a little bit more than I think he may get a little bit more than Thomas. And I'm just wondering, and I don't even know, do those guys call and say, listen, how about if you just sign him at 8.5 and then I can get this guy at 7? And I don't know if that's considered tampering, but that might have something to do with it. I don't know. I'm just wondering, is Seider waiting for Harley to sign for 7.5? And next thing you know, we'll see which one blinks first there.
And Sean, you were trying to get some insight from Thomas Harley's agent, who I believe is Andy Scott, yesterday.
Yep.
And you got politely declined because of some other client news or issues.
Yeah, when I called Andy yesterday, he answered, and I told him what I was calling about. And he said, "Oh, that's great. I'd love to talk at another point, but right now I'm on the other line working on something for Leon Draisaitl." So his own agent is there are clearly bigger fish to fry sometimes, and so if a Draisaitl extension happens soon, we will know maybe that's one of the reasons the Harley deal was slightly delayed. So.
If there's going to be an $80 to $100 million contract,
I was just going to say the difference between around $50 million deal and 120 or 130 million, you're probably going to put the work into that other one first.
Yeah, we actually will talk tomorrow about more of the contract start, because Jamie Benn's deal comes off after this season, and some of that money could very well be used for some of the players that Sean and Sam were talking about. Wyatt Johnston, maybe Jake Oettinger, maybe the extension of Thomas Harley makes it a little bit easier. And what do you do with Jamie's next contract? We'll get into that tomorrow. But right now, we have to remind you that while I complain about how hot it is in Dallas, at least I have a pair of Shady Rays in my car. Yes, it helps keep the bright sun of the North Texas summer out of my eyes, and you can do it with a quality pair of shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. They are an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames, crystal clear optics, and guess what? They make the perfect choice for all of your outdoor adventures. Even if you're sitting in a hot tub wearing some of the FOCO Dallas Stars bathing suit. I would say some, like you have more than one on. There's one.
Those are good looking, man.
They have hundreds of models to choose from and options. And guess what? You can probably find a color of Shady Rays to match those swim trunks. So then you could have the full ensemble while you're sitting in your jacuzzi or hot tub or whatever brand you use. Plus, one of the great things, and of course, Luddy here is trying to find loopholes in this, but I think it's pretty ironclad. If your shades ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, you break them somehow, maybe you're rock climbing or cutting down trees in Wisconsin, they will have, and they do, the most insane protection of all eyewear. Every pair is backed by their lost or broken replacements deal. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And now, with the
these aren't Shady Rays because I can't see shit in these things. These are $12 from a marina in Eagle River, Wisconsin.
Which is where you're from.
That's where I'm from.
That's right.
They're awful.
We got to get you some Rays, man.
Shady Rays.
You want me to tell you about DLLS diehards?
I would love to hear what you have to say today.
Here are some of the perks of being one of those diehards. You get access to exclusive content not available to the general public to listen and read like those two guys were talking about the whole show today, for God's sakes, including access to the DLLS Discord channel. That damn channel, they slide this thing in every time. It doesn't matter what you read. You got to talk about that.
How did you become our Discord guy?
I don't know. I know what that means.
So you do know what it means now?
Kinda. Can we move on?
I don't know.
Here, let's just get through this. Plus, you'll receive discounts on events and merchandise, access to members-only discounts, and much more. Log on to alldlls.com/join-diehard and sign up today. Good grief. That's alldlls.com/join-diehard.
And as I was saying earlier about, we're going to talk to some Jamie Benn tomorrow. We're also going to do oh, look at that. Ardell says, Luds rocking the 7-Eleven shades.
Boat sport. Same thing. 7-Eleven. Boat sport.
Comes with a free Slurpee.
Yeah.
It's probably worth it for the Slurpee, right? By the way, 7-Eleven, I mean, you want to supply us with Slurpees and sponsor the show. I don't think we're saying no to that. But
Shady Rays are better.
If you get into the Die Hard program, you get access to the Discord, or as Luds likes to call it, the damn Discord channel. Tomorrow, we're going to get some of your Discord comments, questions, etc., and we're going to surprise Luds and see what his instant reaction with, whether he can see it or not. So make sure you do that. Back to the program. We now have to talk again to these two guys, Luds, but you're welcome to chime in.
I can't see him anymore.
Okay, well, that's probably better for you,
like
isn't
Dale
it?
Earnhardt sitting up here.
You do kind of look like that, yeah. You look like a 1980s NASCAR driver.
I wouldn't be here then.
That's true.
I'd be in my own little island.
So, fellas, Victory Plus is the new streaming service announced recently by the Dallas Stars as part of APMC. Which produces Dude Perfect. They are doing the Dallas Stars local, or I should say regional game broadcasts, meaning that instead of being on Bally Southwest, the Stars broadcast will be on Victory Plus exclusively in market. Now, outside of the market, you still have the ESPN Plus or the NHL Center Ice packages, and that goes as well for international. And I believe, Sean, you would know this better, I believe that there is an NHL TV option for international Stars fans, but that NHL.TV isn't a domestic thing anymore because of the ESPN Plus deal. But all that being said, this is a big change. And then we, of course, found out just a couple of days ago that the Anaheim Ducks are going to also do that, but they're going to pair their streaming option with a local over-the-air TV combo. Maybe the Stars do something like that down the road. But this is a big difference for people that are used to going to find Bally's. And the big thing is that while it's not on traditional cable or satellite providers, it's free of charge.
Free.
We like free.
They're all saving money so they can be diehards, right?
That's right. There you go. Great
I'm
time.
sorry. You guys aren't forcing me to do ad reads, so I got to find ways to push off not getting.
Should we have Sean when he's here do ad reads?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay,
he can do mine.
We'll get him. We'll get him in the rotation because then you can make fun of him.
Yeah,
even more.
Let's see if he's got more marbles in his mouth than I do.
Tell us a little bit from your reporting, Sean. I know you did a thing on your Substack talking about it. The difference between the Stars and the Ducks, and why is it important for both of these teams and more teams to start using Victory Plus?
Well, one of the more confusing things, and I think it was just because the Stars came out first on Victory Plus, and I think a lot of people thought it was a Stars-only platform, right, with the Victory Green and everything like that. I think, and then the Ducks came out on. Yep, Sam
thought it too. For those listening later on the audio podcast, Sam pointed to himself and said, "I also thought that was the case." Right, Sam?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. So Victory Plus is basically just a regional sports digital streaming network that APMC, which actually stands for a parent media company, which sounds like something you would make up.
Somebody did.
Exactly. And Victory Plus, and so the Ducks are going to be on there. The Stars will be on there. And the interesting thing is, as this builds out, and the Stars were kind of hoping other NHL teams would jump on this because it's a rising tide lifts all boats type deal, and if more teams are buying into Victory Plus, more teams are gonna. There's more chance for long-term growth. It's interesting. There's two interesting things about it. The two biggest differences this year. The Ducks have the local TV element. 65 games for the Ducks will be in market live over air television. The Ducks deal is also only 2 years. That's the Ducks had been in negotiation. Now part of that is the Ducks and Bally had been in negotiation up until a week ago. So there's a short term. The Ducks still aren't committed to 7 years of this like the Stars are. The Stars are the first team where they've committed long term to this. We talked about Thomas Harley's contract earlier. Whatever contract Thomas Harley signs will be covered completely by Victory Plus. The other thing about the Stars deal, and it's the interesting element that I know Brad Alberts has told me, and they're trying to figure out how this works and how it doesn't, what the best way to do it is. The Stars can work out some local TV stuff, and they've talked some things, but there's not a set, hey, there's 65 games of over air. The Stars are betting even more heavily on everyone's going to find this from a streaming perspective. Personally, I think it's good to see teams thinking outside the box on this. It's good to see teams trying to meet team fans where they are at. There's also, and I'm fascinated to hear what other people think about this, there's also the gamble of you have to be looking for a Stars game now to go watch it. You to go watch a game, you have to know and have the Victory Plus app. There's no longer, I'm flipping through the channels. And I know the Bally coverage and the carriage wasn't great, but there's no longer I'm flipping through the channels and I found the Stars game. You actually have to actively go look for the Stars game. And that's kind of one of the gambles here. Are enough people going to tune in? Are you going to make enough money to cover? The Stars are making, I believe, 25 to 30 million per season from Bally. Are they going to be able to make that up back from this? It's a really interesting thing for the Stars, and they have not a partner, but they have a team in the Ducks that's using something similar now. It's a brand new space for this world, and Brad has told me that this is one of the biggest challenges he's ever faced as a team executive. I talked to the Ducks team president yesterday. He said this is one of those things that they have been trying to figure out for years what the right solution is. I mean, it's a brave new world, and I would love to get some user feedback in here. Like at some point as this season goes on, I'd love to hear from people in the Discord and the chat and everything about what they think about this, and maybe we could kind of talk a little bit more what it's like as a Stars fan in this new era that's going to launch in about 2 weeks.
So I have a question, either Sam or Sean. So if I have the Victory Plus app on my phone or on my computer or whatever, and we travel a lot with our U18 team, and let's say I'm playing in Chicago, or our team is playing in Chicago, will I be able to use that app and watch the game that the Stars are playing in, whether they're at home or on the road?
Unfortunately, no, because
I think ESPN, right?
Yeah. When you're in Chicago, you will have to use the NHL out-of-market package because your location and it is geo-locked to your location. So if you're using Victory Plus to watch a Stars game, you basically have to be within Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana,
Arkansas.
I think Arkansas. Yeah, Arkansas too. Yep. You have to be within those states, that area geographically, to be able to live stream the games. Otherwise, you'll have to use the ESPN Plus out-of-market package or Center Ice or something like that.
Or
Sam,
use a VPN.
Good question, Luds.
It was a great question.
Good question, Luds.
It was a
was.
great question.
That was.
Great
We'll let him
question.
pat himself on the back. Sam, you really got excited about the free option. I mean, there's no doubt there were people that were frustrated with the previous situation. And again, this is not the biggest issue, but it's one that I always thought was not ideal for the Stars. Was they didn't have the rights decision. It was up to Bally's, and it probably came down to cost of producing them, but to actually broadcast their home preseason games. Whereas the Stars, I believe, are planning to do all of the home ones on Victory Plus because, again, they control their rights now, not the TV rights holder that paid for them. Granted, they've received as Sean was saying, a pretty hefty monetary rights fee, and that's going to be interesting how they build that up. But I know that we're going to be interested to watch some preseason hockey, and I don't know if they're going to have any of the road games on Victory Plus. Sometimes they did sort of a gentleman's agreement between the other team where they'll let them pull the feed from one team or another. But just the fact that if your team is playing a competitive game, even if it's exhibition, I feel like it very much should be something that is broadcast on your rights holders' media.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cool thing about this is, like you said, it's theirs, right? So if they want to broadcast it and they find a way to do it, they can do it. And if it also gives the option of, who knows, they can do some cool video stuff from Totes that he does a documentary that they could air on there. They could do some behind the scenes stuff on there. Like it opens up a whole bunch of doors, which I think is huge. And the reason I was excited about it free is because people still have cable. Yes, not a lot of people do, but some people still do. And I think a lot of those people want.
Can you guys all read this? Brian just wrote.
Okay, Brian, just a question before the clown next to me reads this. What the hell is a VPN?
Craig, this is what Brian just entered the chat. Craig's searching VPN apps now with 2 crying with laughter emojis, and I'm dying. But he can read it with his sunglasses
What's
on.
VPN?
Sam?
It's a way for
wait
you to
a second, Owen, you don't
pretend.
know?
Oh, I do.
Oh, you do?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. But I want to let Sam.
It's basically a way for you to pretend that you're somewhere else, which is why I joked about using it. So if you use a VPN, you can basically tell your computer settings that you are in Dallas, even though you're in Chicago, and you'd be able to use the Victory app. I used to do it when I was out of market living in Nashville and the Stars would come to town. I couldn't watch the games, which goes right into my next segment here, which is what was so frustrating for fans in Dallas, that it was easier for me to watch the Stars this year in New Jersey than it was when I was covering the team, when they would go on the road or there was games that we weren't covering, which is just wild. And now people that had cable and don't want to have cable anymore can now use it for free and not have to go buy an app or subscribe to ESPN. I think it's a home run, and we'll see what it turns into, but I'm excited about it.
And just to qualify, as you mentioned some of the other networks, Dallas will be on national TV a few times, whether it's an ESPN Hulu exclusive, ESPN Plus Hulu exclusive, ESPN, ABC, or TNT. The Victory Plus app will not have those games because those are exclusive. Now, sometimes there's ones where it's on Hulu, but also on your local broadcasts. And so those aren't, again, not exclusive. But either way, they just want to be able to have all the Stars fans watch the games.
It's such a bonus and a plus for the fans here.
Yeah.
I think it's going to grow the fan base too, because just think about how many kids that's all they do is stare at their phones all day long.
And you can do it on any device that I believe it launches mid-September.
Look at our producer over there. He's still staring at his phone. He has no clue what the time is on the clock now. He doesn't know
That's
what
okay.
segment to go to.
Yeah.
You know, the thing, Sean, we were talking about the Ducks
Yeah.
joining. The thing to me, we're going to keep going, and then we'll get him.
Yeah.
Having more and more teams sign up to use Victory Plus as their provider, I think will really benefit the Stars in a sort of secondary way. And what I mean is, the more teams that are doing Victory Plus or using it, the more people in general, whether it be in Dallas or any other part around the country, start to get into the habit of going to Victory Plus to watch their games. And so I think that will really benefit. Of course, down the road, if it really expands and a lot of teams are using it, maybe it becomes a marketable quantity or entity that you could sell or something. But just in the short term, the more they use it, the more people go, oh, well, I turn on the Victory Plus app because that's where I watch my hockey games.
the thing that when I talked to the Ducks team president about, the thing he was really excited about, the long-term growth of Victory Pluses. So say you guys are sitting in Dallas, Sam's sitting in New Jersey right now. If you go into the Victory Plus app right now, you will not be able to watch Ducks games live because you're outside that market. But you will have access to all of the Ducks additional programming, just like someone in Anaheim would have all the access to the Stars additional programming. So it's the long-term vision that the Ducks were excited about was the fact where, hey, this becomes a place where the hockey fan can go to, and you might be in the Stars channel watching something from Victory Plus, but see the Ducks put out a video of an interview or a story with Leo Carlson or something like that, and you might flip over to that. Like, there is the long-term hope for Victory Plus from that perspective, from a hockey perspective. It becomes another go-to place where even if you're only getting your games live in that spot, other teams will be in there, and they hope to add more. You see any other team that's currently on a Bally deal, you got to imagine they're looking at this, where you can try to build a nice little content studio where, hey, like, so when the Stars play the Ducks this year, and you guys and Sam's prepping for the Ducks, he can just literally stay in the Victory Plus app and pull up some stuff there. It's trying to create a spot where you can meet people where they're at, is the term that people have been using.
So, we have confirmation.
Do we?
We have confirmation. We have breaking news. Victory Plus will carry Dallas Stars home games in the preseason.
That's what I thought. See, so starting September 21st is the first preseason game. It will be home, I believe, against St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken.
I've done my part. I have no idea what the rest of
Look
the
at
that.
Luddy out-reporting the
St.
reporters. Yeah, and
that's called breaking news, guys.
He's feeling good about that.
I don't know if you heard my phone ringing.
Speaking of breaking news, there's my
those bathing suit.
That was actually I modeled for that.
Did you really? Oh, very nice. So you must have kept the shins clean from all those trees getting lopped off.
When I was 12.
So
definitely you really tan that day.
Sean, I'm trying to get a dig in here. Go ahead. You got a clean one. Go ahead, Sean.
No. I just said it was one really tan day for you that day.
Wow.
He had his Shady Rays on.
So yesterday, I pulled a Ron Burgundy moment because I was reading off of the information I had in front of me, but apparently the question mark wasn't supposed to be read. And what I mean by that is we have a function or a feature on our YouTube broadcast called The Chat, but our producer in there had written down, it's like pump up the super chat. So I looked at Luds and said, hey, we got to talk about the super chat. Well, guess what? That's not a name. We made that up. Unless we want to call it the damn Discord channel and the super chat. It's just the chat. But it seems like our viewers have already kind of figured out what the purpose is and how it is. We get the chirps popping up on the screen.
Not this viewer, because I'm so lost here now with the chat. Wait, Sam's got his hand raised.
Also great for the audio part of our podcast.
No, I'm not confused. I think I might be the only one here that's not confused. So let me explain here.
Please.
We have the chat on YouTube, which is what we keep seeing popping up on the bottom. We do have what is called
$12 glasses on. I need some Slim Shady.
Shady Rays.
Shady Rays.
We do have what is called the super chat, which is the same. It's going to come up the same way for us. It's going to come to our producer, and it's a way for people to tip the show and get their question or comment read on the show. So it's the same as a chat, but instead of just putting it on the chat with everyone else's, you tip whatever to the show. We read or answer your question right there on the show. That is the super chat that I was trying to explain yesterday.
So you're saying that if one of our fans really wants to make sure, it's like getting the skip the line pass at the amusement park. If you really want to get to the front of the line, you can use your wallet and go to the super chat and then tell Luddy how much a virtual private network is important for getting your pirated video streams.
It's like these people that have the jukebox apps, you know, and they can pass you up your songs. You know how you can get on your phones? You guys heard about this yet?
No, tell us all about it.
We have this in Wisconsin. I don't know.
Yes.
Please tell me more.
You can select your songs from your phone, right? Sitting in a bar. Then some ass comes up to you. And then all of a sudden, you got 7 songs here, and he jumps his song ahead of you because he used double the credits.
Oh, so he outspent you.
Bunch of bullshit in that thing.
That's a great
scam.
It's actually a perfect comp, isn't it? Or
That's
the
great.
vinyl that
Exactly what it is. Yeah, or you just do that.
You still have a record player.
Hey, they have made a comeback, haven't they?
Yes. So
We
jump
digress.
jump in the super chat. Helps out the show. Gets your questions and comments across. It is a real thing. Don't believe what you hear.
All right, we're going to finish our show today with some NHL news and notes as we've been liking doing. And I have a great way to set the first one up. We're going to get into some Dallas Stars sort of adjacent in just a minute. But this one, Luds looked at me earlier and said, why should I care about this Askarov fellow? And so I looked to Sean, who's covered this goalie, this fellow who was just traded from the Nashville Predators to the San Jose Sharks. So, Sean, why should Craig care about this story?
Yeah, I mean, for Askarov, he's the top goalie prospect in the world right now. If you could have an argument between him and Jesper Wallstedt. Either way, top goalie prospect in the world right now, was going to be the part of the future for Nashville before UC Saros signed the long-term extension and they let him go. And for the Sharks, should you care is because as the Sharks rebuild happens, you've checked off some of the key boxes with Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini. To contend, as Luds Wells knows, you need a goalie that is going to build around. There was nothing like that in the Shark system, know where they were going. And so now they have actually gone and added a goalie who, if he projects the way people think, which is obviously a big if, they actually have added that part of the rebuild, which they did not have before. That's why you should care in a nutshell. I'm trying to keep answers shorter and not ramble as much this time.
But not his personality, the fact that he's interesting and you find him entertaining. It's more about what he can do in the net as he grows as a...
That's a dumb question.
Really?
Yeah. What? I don't care if he's a comedian or
I'm just saying that
teaches Bible school. I want him to be able to stop the puck.
Right, but if he's good and also a bit of a showman, that's not a bad thing if you're trying to grow the game.
You must be a soccer guy.
I must
gotta
be.
be a soccer guy. You love them guys that are diving all the time and pretending they're hurt.
I just don't like the fact that, as Wayne Gretzky famously has said, NHL guys are notoriously poor about selling the game.
That's changed, though.
Hold on.
Well, he's leaving. He's probably going to get your Miller Lite.
He was mad at Luds.
No, he'll be
Luds
back.
is over here talking trash.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, look at that. So for people that are listening and not watching, he has a Yaroslav Askarov bench press bobblehead where he's prone lying down.
This is
where's the net part of it?
There's a net too, because you have to be able to bench press it, right? So
there you go. So he actually did that after winning a shootout
in a game.
In the AHL.
We should have given John the video, because AHL video, I think we could get through on this, right? We'll have to ask on the... I know we're going to get flagged for any NHL video, but can we get AHL highlights on here without getting flagged?
Our producer does not know the legal ramifications of that, so...
Not on the top of his head.
Keep on moving. But in all seriousness, I think it is a good thing and maybe it's changing. Younger players being more digitally connected, being willing to be a little bit more open about who they are and not just trying to like fit in and be quiet, but to express themselves while they play. Obviously, if they're good is very important, but I think that the better we can get players that can actually be entertaining, you can draw in the non-traditional hockey fans.
You're saying it helps sell the game a little bit more.
Exactly what I'm saying.
I said that really quick. You don't have to talk for 2.5 minutes, and I totally agree with it.
Okay.
I agree with that. But being able to stop the puck or put the puck in the net, to me, is more important. I don't know if Jim's going to go out and draft some kid that can do pull-ups and sit-ups on the top of a net or something
but if he happens to be good and also does that, that's not a bad thing.
I don't know if all the scouts are talking about, hey, you know what he can do in his off time? You know, he can ride a bicycle backwards and, you know. But it could be. Maybe that's changing too. I have no clue. I mean, good for them.
So one of the things that we wanted to get into before the show ran out was Yanni Hakanpää news that we saw from one of the Canadian writers, Chris Johnston, who was reporting that he's not actually signed Hakanpää with the Toronto Maple Leafs. They announced it at free agency that he was going to go to Toronto, and there were some questions about, you know, the Stars kept saying right up to the playoffs and into it, oh, he's not that far away, but he clearly had a setback with a knee injury, and he never played in the playoffs. And you and I and Sam talked a little bit about what they missed physically with not having him also on the penalty kill, and you saw the penalty kill numbers at home at 57% in the playoffs. Yeah. That wasn't very good. So
I think that he's a guy at his size and his stature, and I think for me he's a player that knows who he is. Like, he understands his role, he plays his role well. You go into the corner with him, you're going to know you're in the corner with him in front of the net. He makes it a little bit more difficult to get to the front of the net, establish position, things like that, especially on the power play that are so important at those times. So I think they missed that element. Maybe that's why the size has come, with a couple players that Jim has gone out and gone this summer.
And I think that it shows that the Stars were not convinced that Yanni Hakanpää would be okay, which is why they didn't re-sign him, because I think they were happy with Yanni. I know some of the fans felt that he was maybe playing at times a little too high up in the lineup for what he is, but he was clearly part of their number one penalty kill unit. But there's now this reporting that there's this basically bone-on-bone lack of cartilage in his injury in his knee, and the reporting is that Yanni believes he can be able to go this year, and that maybe the Maple Leafs aren't so sure about that.
So a really interesting thing with the Hakanpää stuff, and I went through after we were texting about it in the pre-show to go look. On July 1st, the Stars, sorry, whatever. I'm
hoping that was at Sean and not at studio.
One of your goalies doing push-ups on the net that fell off the top of the net?
No,
that sounded like Askarov falling down, didn't it?
Yeah. No, it wasn't. That's still right here. I still got the proper right here.
Was it your record player?
No, that's so good. It's just I knocked a pen off the desk. So actually,
that was one substantial pen, wasn't it?
A big pen.
A bucket of pens. On July 1st, the Maple Leafs put out press releases that they signed Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. They also, and that they extended Joseph Woll. They never put out a press release that they signed Yanni Hakanpää. So while it was widely reported that Hakanpää was signed for a 2-year deal, $1.5 million, the Leafs never officially put it out there or confirmed it, and we just kind of all acted like we all assumed that was what's happened. And I don't think anyone ever put two and two together that the Leafs never actually put out the press release. Their graphics team never made they signed everything. It's an interesting saga because everything's been acted like Hakanpää is going to be part of this team, and clearly he has seen the Leafs doctors, but until the Leafs actually register the contract, which they haven't, he's not an employee there. So
he's day to day.
He will remain. He remains day to day.
So are we.
Remains day to day.
Yeah,
and that's
he has been.
the tough. I just want to say from Hakanpää, he's a bit of a late bloomer as far as getting to the NHL. He wasn't a guy that got there at 20 and continued. It took him a little while, and so it felt like he had maybe a little bit more tread on his tires because he hadn't played for 8-9 years at the top level. And then something like this happens, and I don't know how much you've talked to him. I talked to him quite a bit in the dressing room during morning skates and practice days. He's a good guy. He's pretty interesting. He loves to cook. He gets along well, obviously, with the other Finns, part of that Finnish mafia. It's not just because he's a soccer fan, but just he was always a guy. Luddy, maybe it was different when you were there, but like in this current Dallas Stars iteration, some guys are out of the dressing room before the media session even opens. Some guys are hanging around and they're happy to do it. Others have to get dragged back out to do stuff, whatever. He was always one of those guys that was there. So, of course, we're going to say, yeah, he was great. But he was genuinely a good guy. And I agree with you. I think he was a very effective player. I didn't want him on my top pairing, but I wanted him on my team.
Well, and I think that's the key to any good teams and teams that are going deep is you got guys slotted in the right spots and they can stay healthy, which obviously is a concern here. Sean still looking for his record player? Or
I think he's trying to find the bucket of pens that took down almost his entire desk.
I am showing up because I'm seeing in the little side chat. I don't know what we call that chat, Sam. What do we call the side chat I can see on the thing?
Not the super chat.
Just
yeah,
the chat.
The group of pens that have all fallen just like that, okay?
See, I'm trying to like the chat thing or the Twitter thing
because they're all chirping everybody else. They're going after Sean.
I know, I love it. Or what do you say? Major ass pen or something like that.
Yeah, awesome. There we go. There was Trent.
Yeah,
what was the
massive ass pen?
What was the other one there? Like Brian wrote, "How does a pen register the Richter scale?" Sean.
Well,
how does it feel?
It's a lot. It's a lot. Luckily, I don't have to. I only have to come on twice a week, so I get to kind of heal and let the burns go down. You
got to rebuild your
every
studio.
day.
Yeah, I'm just glad your Wi-Fi started behaving because at the beginning he looked like he was a 1980s animation, didn't he?
Get ready early. Get on time. Get your shit together.
I always look like a 1980s.
Prepared. This is a big deal.
Sean, don't you want to come back again?
Let me break this up. Yeah. Luds, do you think Hakanpää signs with Toronto?
No clue because I don't know if he's healthy. I mean, I think that they will like him if he does. I think they would want him there because it's what they've been missing is that type of a player. I think they would love to have him in that lineup, but it's just hard to say, right, without knowing exactly what the health situation is.
And I'm just, again, because I like the guy, I really hope that it works out for him because your career's so quick anyway. I'd hate to have it cut short early like that because I think he still has some game to give. But boy, if the knee doesn't behave, that's a really hard thing to get over. So.
And he doesn't have a whole lot of ammo, right? He was day to day I was joking about it, but he was day to day for 3 months. So if you're Toronto, he's not getting surgery or anything like that, right? So I wouldn't have a whole lot of confidence either that that's not going to happen again. But I'm with you, Owen. I hope for the best.
It's a risky move, but again, are you not able to have physicals in the summer and you get this all checked out like 2 months ago and make sure you're healthy even before?
We're going to have somebody from the front office for the Stars on our show as a guest, and then we can ask him all about
Razor will know. Razor knows everything.
Well, let's get Razor on him.
Yeah,
we'll ask him about that. Yeah. Well, guys, that does it for our show today. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sam. Sam, one more remote show. Obviously, we'll have remotes during the season when you're traveling with the team or after a game when you're over at the AAC. But you're going to be in studio very soon, and that means you may have to watch out. If you say the wrong thing, Luddy could just backhand and take you right out.
Yeah,
no,
well,
I can't reach you from where you're going to be sitting, though, Sam.
Oh, he's over in the dunce chair?
Yeah, because apparently where you're going to be sitting, it's that little seat over there.
Yeah,
it's bigger. That seat over there is smaller than his big ass pen.
I was just about to say, I was just going to say, I don't know if I'm safer on the show or safer in Sean's house with that massive ass pen over there.
I just want to know how long Luddy had that one in the queue, in the chamber, ready to fire.
I just thought of it.
Boy, he is that fast, folks. I love it. Well, hey, for Sean Shapiro, for Sam, also known as Sam Nestler, for Craig Ludwig, I'm Owen Newkirk. Subscribe, like, share it with your friends. Go on to the podcast site on Apple, Spotify, anything you like. It helps us very, very much. And we'll have another show tomorrow, so we'll see you then. So long, everyone.
We all silly like the mayor.